Hi everyone. I am going to make a video about some things that have been coming up, and also because it's a full moon and I have not been very visible on social media. I'm freaking exhausted, but I'm also just exhausted by, honestly what's happening in my practice, because most of you are channeling things that are likely not part of your personal life path, um, and are beginning to feel a little bit of the ego coming in that's kind of pushing back at my suggestions for grounding and taking care of the physical body and all that kind of jazz. And most of this is being driven by the concept of love and the twin flame activation. Now, many of you had some really important relationship experience that happened in the past few years, and there was this really exciting moment where it kind of felt like we all became whole, and it was kind of like the universe was working. And I have to say that in the past couple of years, yeah, the universe kind of broke apart and it's no longer working, and many of us have been thrown onto a healing journey. For just soul up-levelment and to get ready for the new things that are coming. So I just wanted to create a quick video that talks a little bit about my view of the twin flame concept. I'm definitely on this journey. I have been for a very long time. I probably was activated when I was a little girl. I'm coming out of a 20-year cycle with the planet Venus, which has been a huge initiation process that I did not understand until recently, and definitely had all kinds of spiritual activations along the way. And it's a really hard path to follow in your spiritual life. It's a hard path to understand your own personal journey of anything related to the planet Venus is hard. We're in a Venus retrograde right now, so old contacts, old relationships, old memories are coming up for many people. And it's a little bit of a shit show. It's a hard time, and this full moon has been powerful for purging energetically connections that cannot go forward with us into the new 20-year cycle that's coming next year. But the thing that I have found really interesting is how many of you are interested in the twin flame concept. How many of you have had an experience where you think it may be a twin flame activation, where my intuition is that it's not. It's something that's probably more preparatory. Mostly because in my experience that the real activation happens in order to catapult your spiritual journey. And there is a connection that is full of a lot of love and a lot of pain and purging. But whatever this connection is, whether it's the true one or it's the one that's coming in for healing purposes, is meant to skyrocket you spiritually. And I've had many activations. So the idea that this comes in the body of one person is probably not accurate. From my viewpoint, there are going to be different times at different key moments in someone's life where a different aspect of the healing process is going to be triggered in the body with someone who's carrying the activation codes. And I think that this opens up and begins to break down our whole identity around what are soulmate relationships and what are karmic relationships. Because if we can have this super high level activation of our soul within the body of multiple people, then there's been a shift probably from the way that we've seen things in the past to what is coming from the future, or for the future. And it's probably, in my opinion, coming from the need for us to kind of get our act together and to spiritually ascend at a much more rapid pace than we've had to deal with before. So it would make sense that all of these concepts would kind of move to a level of innovation or to change. But I think that most people who are coming to my practice who've had this kind of activation are really stuck on this feeling of wholeness that we've had with another human being. And it's not a wholeness that we're seeking for. It's a rebalancing of the energies for people who are on a particular spiritual path. And this path is related to the planet Venus. It is related to a rose lineage. It's related to Jesus and Mary Magdalene and their lineage. So it's going to connect with people whose ancestral lineage is connected in some way, shape, or form to most recently Christianity and or going back to Middle Eastern traditions and cultures. And some, perhaps if you have Jewish heritage, it could be part of that too. So it doesn't make sense for everyone necessarily, but for a large population of people on this planet, yeah. And it's a really hard path. If you're truly on this path, you know because your life has been completely and utterly destroyed during a spiritual awakening journey, and it's not meant to be easy. I think that we get seduced by the energy that comes in initially through this process, where it feels like we are falling in love and it feels like something's coming and it feels good. It feels really good. But for most of us, that's an opening that we're not ready to fully receive because of the level of trauma that most of us have experienced in this lifetime and past lifetimes. So you see it, and then the work begins, and it's really hard, it's really painful, and we get stuck on the physical person that this is happening with. And I can tell you from my experience, and I have not written about necessarily what's happened to me in the past 3 years yet, but I can tell you from my experience that there's usually multiple players involved in you figuring out what your journey is, because your soul has been through so much, and there's so much deprogramming that needs to happen, and so much fear around love and commitment and relationships that needs to be purged, that it only makes sense that would be kind of like an entire team, an entire soul group coming in at this time to help us that have been stuck go through this process. And it's time consuming. It's really hard on the physical body. The healing of the physical body is definitely part of this journey, and remembering and opening up the spiritual gifts is part of this journey, and it's rough. So for those of you who think that you've been on this journey, I have a great deal of compassion for you. But if most of you are coming in thinking you had this really sexy, sensual, romantic connection with someone in an environment that really didn't go anywhere or didn't trigger a spiritual awakening, that's a different kind of connection. It's potentially equally as important, but it is a different kind of connection that needs to be dealt with in a different way. And the reason why I'm making this video today is that we have this perception of what therapy is supposed to be or what coaching is supposed to be. And for those of us who are trying to heal relationships or learn about the heart energy, or who've had these kinds of activations spiritually, therapy is not me listening to you vent and asking you a bunch of questions. Therapy is a relationship. And in a relationship, people share their experiences. And because the collective is going to be moving to a time of complete transparency in our relationships, I act in accordance with the notion that my soul is completely transparent. It is actually so transparent that if you're coming into my practice and you're intuitive, you're probably channeling a lot of stuff that is actually not yours. It's stuff that I've gone through. And so, energy clearing and boundary setting and understanding what's coming in the future with regard to transparency of relationships means that psychotherapy has to change. And this is not a comfortable process for everyone. People who do well with my modality, which is transpersonal and also combines a lot of spiritual lineages, are people who tend to value and respect relationships and love, and are the kind of people who would die for love. Right? There is a type of person and a type of person on a spiritual journey who knows deep in their heart that this is why they're on this planet at this time. And they know because of that commitment, they are going to go through trials and tribulations and heartbreak over and over and over again, because they are here to master the heart energy and here to fall in love, not only with themselves, but on the path to learning what unconditional love is. So the kind of work that needs to be done with people who are on this path is highly relational, right? And having a relationship means that you're going to be listening as much as you're talking. This is not traditional therapy. If you want to go to traditional therapy because you were in therapy 20 years ago, or you did some DBT or CBT and you want to go back to that because that feels safe to you, you are not ready to be in my office. You're not ready to even, in fact, engage with anyone who might have traditional psychoanalytic training from a relational institute. You're not ready to deal with the process of the left brain shutting down and us focusing on the right brain to right brain connection. You're not ready for the intuitive training that goes along with the ability to connect with the heart space. Relational interventions are far more difficult than CBT, DBT, or any of the other cognitive interventions that we've done for the mind. And as the United States up-levels their spiritual practices, we are going to have to revisit what does relationships mean in a therapeutic context, because the cognitive work needs to go to other cultures that are, really struggling with too much energy, too much sexual energy, or too much energy in the heart, and they need the balance of the cognitive skills to raise that energy up so that we're not swimming in our emotions and having all kinds of mental breakdowns all the time. But my clients in the United States, it's the opposite. Most of you are struggling with relationships in general. You struggle with the relationships with your children, you're struggling with the relationships at work, you are struggling to have relationships with your partners, you're struggling to have a relationship with yourself. And what I do in my office is very much connected to the Venus path. It's very much connected to relational aspects of therapy and psychotherapy. And it is not about talking about who did what in a couples therapy session. It's not. That's not therapeutic any longer. There's been too much shift collectively. There's been too much going on in the world. This is not how the new paradigm is operating. So there is a division. Some people are more comfortable with the old paradigm. And so I just make referrals to traditional therapists and couples therapists. It's not a problem. There are plenty of people out there to help you. But people are getting stuck because they don't understand that there's a difference between CBT, DBT, and psychotherapy, and the relational approach of someone who's been trained their entire career to deal with relationships, not only scientifically, but spiritually. It's a different process. So those of you who are struggling with what you may have been reading about karmic relationships and astrology and twin flame stuff, but you can't handle a therapist disclosing when it's appropriate their own journey as part of the teaching process, you're not ready. Not ready. So what the recommendation is going to be, let me get you to someone who can be with you where you're at, and get the skills in place so that you can handle the energy of the heart space. Yeah, energy of the heart space is not something to mess around with. There's an incredible amount of power we have there. We also have power in our womb that many women that's a focus that many women are working through right now. And so we are more self and, kind of focused on the self and not so much in our relationships for a reason. And that's totally okay. Totally okay. But to do this higher level spiritual work that is coming to the planet right now, that is being activated in so many of our relationships, The intervention has to be relational. There's nothing for the masculine energy to do. There's nothing to do other than to learn to receive and to open up and to walk the path of the women who came before, or the divine feminine who had been in the bodies of men before this, who I have spent the past 10 to 15 years working with. The divine feminine energy in the bodies of men who've been ready to serve, and they serve in creative places. They're your tango teachers, they're your musicians, they're your artists, they are some of the male therapists who work with children, they're some of the pediatricians, they are the men who are comfortable with the nurturing energy on the planet. Right? So now we have a new slew of women going into their 40s who've been activated sometime during this craziness shit show of what is going on in the world, and coming in and asking what can be done. I can initiate you, I can walk you through a divine feminine activation, but you're not ready for a relational approach. And for that reason, you get referrals to go do shamanic work. For that reason, you get referrals to do body work. For that reason, many people need to be in a yoga studio consistently. For this reason, meditation becomes important. And the level of impatience on this journey, which I do understand, is really, really high. This is a journey for a reason, and most women are resisting the need to go on pilgrimage, they're resisting the need to go on retreat, resisting the spiritual aspect of the activation that's taken place. And that's not healthy for anyone. For the first time, especially if you're coming from the United States, many people have far more support than they even know that would allow them to go do some of this work on pilgrimage or in a retreat, even if it's just a week, in a retreat on their own. There's never been a time in history where in the United States women have had more supports, either financially or from a spouse or from a community, that it's allowed them to go and walk their path to travel and to go do the things that used to be done only by a few people. There's so much fear, and the fear is coming down to a fear of love, a fear of commitment, and a fear of what happens when you let go of the paradigm of relationships as we have known them up until this point. And it's a higher level of fear for people who are married, and a higher level of fear for people who actually know that their soul needs to be in a monogamous, committed relationship to be happy. I'm one of those people. So there's just a lot to work through right now, and that activation that for many people took place maybe starting 2018 up until the last few years, it's just that it's an activation for most people. For others, it's the full-blown journey that may end up in union with another person who holds the wisdom codes of your soul, if this is your spiritual lineage. But I think that we romanticize it. I think we fantasize about it. I think there's a collective energy that does not understand this journey from a higher level perspective. And I do think there needs to be more wisdom teachers who are able to talk about it as an actual legitimate spiritual path that is just as complicated and nuanced as if you're going to learn Buddhism or some of the other traditions. So I'm leaving you with that right now, and kind of putting the question out to you is that human relationships aren't going anywhere. AI is going to come in and change things, and maybe even human relationships and this concept of love is going to become a bigger issue over the next, few decades. But we all have a desire, and we all have a motivation to find our tribe and to be in love. This is not going anywhere, but we are very quickly beginning to lose the ability to connect as easily as we did maybe 20 years ago. The energy is definitely going to be pushing us into different directions in the near future. And I think many of us are panicking because we remember what it feels like when we have this electric connection with someone. But the truth of the matter is, for women that have awakened, or for the man who holds the wisdom codes of the feminine and has awakened, this is an energy we create with everyone that we meet. Everyone. So we don't have to be fearful that we're necessarily going to lose out on love. We get frustrated that it's not manifesting in real life in the way that we want it to. That's really what's going on. But this process and this spiritual path and this approach to learning about what relationships and love really are is a gift and an up-leveling and a new way to see the divine feminine awakening, and a new way to get out of our head and into our body through the heart. It's a portal that begins to shift our lens of understanding what human relationships actually are, and connects us back to not only the sky but also to the earth. So if you think that you're on this path, I'm going to encourage you. We just had our Venus expanding class on Friday. That's going to be a once a month occurrence. You should drop in to the class, because that's where I will do some more wisdom teaching, and I will lead usually a meditation practice at that time. But if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. There are a couple articles on my medium.com blog that you're welcome to read about what is going on at this particular time with the balancing of energies. And you should, reach out for a consultation to see where you are on your journey. And I have to be honest, I think that the most unsexy part of this journey is the realization that what many women are being asked to do in order to anchor in this energy is to get serious about their careers. It's to work on the masculine energy, which that's the cycle that we're in right now. It's the needing to master finances and to master the career aspect in a way that brings stability, and in a way that brings the material things that are needed to build something with another human being. So some of us are learning that right now. Others of us are going to be learning to step outside our comfort zones to have a different kind of career, or to be more public, right? So until these things happen with, those of us who might be on this journey, who really are programmed to have, a career in this lifetime, until that stuff happens, it's hard for the union to take place, and it's frustrating for everyone who's involved right now. But there's progress. There's progress being made, and it's an adventure. This journey is definitely an adventure, but it's an adventure that not everyone needs or should take in this lifetime. There's many other paths to awakening, and sometimes we just need to go into a yoga studio and start. Sometimes we just need to take care of the physical body. Sometimes we really just do need to hug a tree and kind of just pause and wait for the path to unfold. There is no right journey, and there is no right path. Your path will become clear as you continue to walk it and learn about yourself. And that's what, at the end of the day, therapy is supposed to be, especially from a relational aspect. It's supposed to be learning about yourself in relationship with another human being. In relationship with another human being who's going to be quite open and honest with you if they've had a spiritual experience. They're going to tell you so that you don't feel stupid and don't feel alone on this path. And also, as the teaching that you may actually be very intuitive and psychic right now, because that's where the energy is, and you may be actually picking up on something from the person that you're seeing professionally, that the things that you think are yours are not actually yours, right? So there is a real need for grounding. There's a real need for mastering of energy. There's a real need to study the self so you can stay on your right path and not be picking up on everyone else's stuff. Likewise, if you're in partnership with someone energetically, you need to make sure that you are walking your path and not your partner's path. I've seen that too. And it's not until we get crystal clear with astrology charts and really begin to learn energy management techniques and do the clearing of the physical body that we start realizing, holy crap, I'm not my right path. I'm freaking following my partner's path, or I'm following my mother's path, or I'm following my father's path because I'm so sensitive and psychic. I just took in and I absorbed energy that was not mine. And so now I'm on this whole freaking journey that is not mine or has anything related to what I'm supposed to be doing. So for highly sensitive people, again, there needs to be a lot of self exploration so that you can not only learn to clear energy, but you can make sure that you're actually following your path and following what it is that you are supposed to be doing in this lifetime. Because we're reaching a threshold where we cannot take this for granted anymore. We have to all remember how our ancestors healed. We have to remember what our gifts are. We have to remember how to take care of ourselves, because the energy is just really, really rough right now. And we need to get rid of the things that are just not working. And now's the time to do it. So thank you for listening. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, just feel free to reach out. And again, today I am wearing white turquoise. Turquoise is connected to the goddess Hathor, but I like the color white. This is from Sedona, Arizona, a place I have not been to in a very long time, but I have very fond memories of the Red Rocks. And definitely have been thinking about that it might be time for some nature again and some energetic activation. So if you're feeling called to nature for summer break or summer holidays, enjoy your time off. Bye.